Monday morning, BBC Hereford Worcester, bank holiday Monday. Nice one as well. It's Elliot with you until 10 o'clock. If you're heading off anywhere today, you'll probably see this because it's one of those sort of things that you do see, and it sort of makes you smile, doesn't it? A dog hanging his head out the window, ears flapping in the wind, loving life. But is that actually... Is it legal? There's a question for you, because it's actually if you haven't got your dog under control in the car, you are breaking the law. Research by the Dogs Trust shows that half of owners in Worcestershire could actually be breaking the law because the Highway Code says, as I was just mentioning, the pets need to be suitably restrained whilst travelling. In other words, not having their head hanging out of the window. Today they're launching the Houndway Code. See what they've done there to get the message out. That, like other car passengers, there are rules for dogs as well. So how do you make sure that your dog is under control and not jumping about the place while you're driving? We have been out to ask you.
Mine are chained down in the back of a transporter van. So obviously anyone who looks after dogs sensibly would do the same if they need to.
He's in the boot in the back with a seat belt. He's very well behaved. He just lies there and pants away and looks out the window.
We started off with her going in the boot, but now she's on the back seat. I think not in the front seat. I think that's a good idea. Just because if you brake, they're going to go straight through the windscreen, aren't they?
On the back seat, on my lap.
Yeah, on the back seat of my wife. It was my wife's dog. Well, it's probably a good idea if you've got it under control, especially in the back seat as well, yeah. Probably wrong to have it completely restrained, because, I mean, your dog's not, you can't really restrain a dog completely. But as long as you've got it out away from the driver and away from the front seat passenger to distract the driver, that's fine.
Yeah, I agree. It's dangerous to have them in, passenger footwell and very distracting for people as well.
Well, because people put them in ridiculous places and have them on the knees and they distract the driver.
Yeah, well, I suspect mine is car trained. Genuinely, she's ever so good. She just lies on the floor behind my seat and doesn't move.
Nick Jones is in Bewdley and is a dog behaviour expert from Alpha Dog Behaviour. Morning, Nick.
Very good morning, Elliot. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you very much. So I would imagine this comes as quite surprising news to many dog owners.
Yes, well, as the statistics were reflecting, that many people do not, or at least fail to restrain their dogs adequately. So myself spend a lot of time on the road and regularly see dogs heads out of windows or dogs jumping around in the back of the vehicle, and even occasionally the odd dog sitting on the driver's lap. So plenty of it goes on. And
I suppose that the excuse would be with a dog on the lap, well, it's just a small dog, it's a lap dog, it's only little, but it's still out of control, isn't it? It's not restrained. If the dog decides to go running around, you can't do much about it. Well, precisely, and we have a number of elements going on here. I mean, for the safety of the dog itself, it's not good. For the ability for the driver to drive with concentration isn't really there, and that sort of driver, I'm sure, would be found to be driving without due care and attention, and so we can then quickly look at various fines and offences under that act. I'm not saying this is an excuse, but it's a valid point, and this is a point that Steve made earlier on a text. We mentioned this earlier on. He said, good advice, but the thing is, police don't bother about mobile phones, tailgating, bad driving. There's just not enough of them about. And that's true, isn't it? The chances of actually getting stopped for this, I would imagine, Nick, are pretty slim. Yes, that may actually be true. But the fact remains that even if we looked at it from the perspective of the welfare from the dog, if the driver is involved in a very sudden accident, certainly if, let's say, a dog was on their lap, or even unrestrained in the vehicle, then the dog itself could, experience some serious injuries. So, the law is there for the good of the dog and of other road users, and certainly I personally would very much encourage people to adequately secure their dogs. Is it okay to have a dog in the footwell, say, of the passenger side? Because many dogs do that, don't they? They'll happily just sort of curl up in the footwell and go to sleep. And yes, they're not restrained, but I suppose if they're asleep and in the footwell, they're not going to go flying very far, are they, if you did have to brake suddenly? Is that acceptable?
I think, obviously I can't speak as a legal expert in that respect, but I think it would be seen as acceptable in the sense that it is suitably restrained. But it's not an ideal position because, again, if the driver were involved in a road traffic accident, then that dog is in a somewhat vulnerable position. But in some respects, you could say there isn't a perfect location for a dog in a car. Having said that, the couple of options I usually encourage people to look at are either wearing a body harness, which is then connected into the seatbelt.
Yeah, I was going to ask about you can get those, can't you? That's a sort of a doggy harness seatbelt kind of attachment thing, isn't it?
Yes, so they could wear one of those on and then sit on the back seat. And also you can buy grills that prevent a dog coming forward of the driver's seat and the passenger seat, or we could have the dog in the rear or the boot of the vehicle, again, either with a suitable grille, or you can purchase crates that are appropriate for the brand of car, so they sort of have a bit of a custom install. So those are the sort of two physical options I usually encourage.
If people need to find out more about this, Nick, where can they go?
Yes, I'm online at alphadogbehaviour.co.uk, although these days Facebook, just put in /Alpha Dog Behaviour and people can see my work there.
Lots of advice there, Nick. Thank you very much for talking to us this morning. Nick Jones in Bewdley. Let us know if you're heading off on your travels. You might just be packing the car up now and thinking, hang on, I hadn't thought anything about this. If you travel with your dog regularly, how do you keep them restrained?